time is 6:29, and I'd like to call to order the May 23rd, 2023 School Committee meeting. I'd like to welcome back Ms. Stephanie Parent, who was re-elected in the most recent election. George Balke was also re-elected, and I'd like to welcome Mr. Michael Durham to the school committee as well. And I think the first order of business tonight would be, as part of our reorganization, the election of our officers, and starting with our chair. I would entertain a motion if anybody is ready to make one.
Anybody? Do we converse first or just go for it?
Go for it.
We can do,
We have conversation
if,
usually.
yeah, right. If there's a
Right.
motion to be made, we can do a motion second, then
Yeah.
discussion. Or if you would like to discuss first.
Okay, well, I would just make the motion to appoint Jen Bartos for chairperson, as that's been her role. She's done a great job. It's a fairly mixed, newer board, and I just think it personally makes sense to keep that structure.
Thank you. I'm okay with it if everybody else is.
Second.
Second from Mr. Balke. Any discussion? All in favor of Ms. Bartos being the chairperson for school committee for the 2023, 2024.
Aye.
Aye.
Congratulations,
Thank
Madam
you.
Chairperson. You are unanimously re-elected.
Excellent. Vice chair. Any discussion? Stephanie, would you like to be vice chair again?
I
Jill or
don't
George,
mind if
either
anyone
of
else
you?
wants to jump in.
I'm fine with whatever anyone feels like they'd like to decide.
That's very.
I feel like the way things happen and the way people participate in the subcommittee participation, like everyone has opportunities to participate across the board. So whether it's vice chair or regular ways of participation, it just is.
Yeah.
All right. Can I make the motion? I don't usually make motions, so I will entertain the motion to appoint Stephanie or someone else as vice chair.
I'll make the motion to nominate Stephanie Parent as the vice chair of the school committee.
Can I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. So now, we need to go through and do our subcommittees. The first one on our list is CES. Jill, you've been representing us. Are you interested in continuing, or would you like to put it out for somebody else?
I would like to continue, unless anyone has a really strong desire to take on that role.
I wonder if it might make sense just for CES, probably of all of them, maybe a couple others, is just maybe to explain a little bit about it, so Mike and
of course.
or anybody who might have missed this previously.
Yeah, so the collaborative, we do every other month meetings. All districts that belong to the collaborative and benefit from services, professional development, different areas or different ways. We meet as a board and go through everything from budget to hiring separations to evaluation of the Todd Gazda, and yeah, like I said, it's every other month. Right now it's mostly in person, but they do offer a hybrid option, so it's in Northampton, usually for a couple hours on a Wednesday evening. And then the last 2 months of the year, though, they do a May and June meeting kind of back to back, because then we don't meet again until September.
And then just the other big piece is currently Jill attends the meetings and then she brings back like a report and fills us in on what was discussed at those meetings.
All right, do we usually, I don't think we vote on these, right? We just,
We just-
decide amongst ourselves, so,
Mhm.
is there copies of the, could you hand me a
Agenda?
copy of the agenda, Todd, please? I
Yes,
missed it when I
okay.
walked in. Thank you so much. I still like to write on paper. All right, so if there's no objection, we'll have Jill for CES. Next is Policy Subcommittee. Policy Subcommittee goes through and looks at all of the policies in both handbooks and manuals, I guess.
Policy manual.
Yeah. We usually have 2 people on that subcommittee. Jill has been on it. Would you like to continue on that one as well, Jill? You have first.
Okay, I mean, if people would like me to,
I think you've been doing
I
an
would-
excellent job, so I would love to have you continue.
Agreed. And that may be one too, if someone else wants to jump in, Jill is very knowledgeable in that area. That would be probably a good one to jump on with her
Yeah, I
for
was,
someone who's interested.
I was thinking that'd be one I would be interested in.
Excellent. All right, so we've got Jill and George. The Goal and Evaluation Subcommittee, this one works pretty closely with Stephen and comes up with goals for him and school committee goals, and then works on Stephen's evaluation. Again, this is, it's like the Jill show right now.
told you you can participate in other ways.
Yeah. Jill and Audrey sort of founded this one, really. It got this one started and have been doing an excellent job. So I put you down on this one as well if you're interested, but anybody else interested in goals and evaluation?
If no one else will, I'll do it, I guess.
Okay.
Mike, do you have a preference looking at this list of anything that where something jumps out at you, like, hey, that might be a
I was interested in budget and finance. I have an MBA in finance, and I run the budget for a $600 million.
perfect? I just didn't want to look like we were glazing over it all because it's just the
No,
way the
I'm
order
just-
is. Jill's definitely been on those ones, and then we'll cross down. But
No
I definitely
problem.
have no desire for goals.
So we'll just skip ahead to budget and finance. Typically the chair is on that one because there's a lot of extraneous conversations, so I'll put you and I
Sure,
on that
yeah.
one. Mike?
We can circle back to because George was before I rudely cut him off. I apologize. Was going to say that he was interested in goal and evaluation, right, George? So that could be Jill and George.
Okay. And that worked out well, the way we had done the meetings last time too, to have those two kind of tailored together.
I think so.
Community Relations Subcommittee, this one, just trying to help get the word out, interface with the public, things like that. Stephanie, you've been on this one.
Yeah, I would like to stay on that. I know last time I kind of got pulled into more budget, and
Yeah.
I would like to focus a little bit more in that area.
So Mike, would you be interested in working on that one as well?
Wherever you need me.
Okay. And then the calendar subcommittee, that one was a newer one that we had put on, and we really only had that subcommittee meeting up front when we started a session just to align dates and get things on the calendar. I'm only on one right now, so I will be on that one, but I need somebody else to be on that one.
I can do that one with you.
Okay. And Jill, we'll circle back with you because I think you and Audrey had the notes probably for that one, although if
They're in the drive
they're
too.
probably in the drive.
Yeah, yeah. The only other one that I know we talked about, but I think budget had kind of taken over that piece, was kind of onboarding.
Right.
And does onboarding get its own, or do we roll that almost into?
Well, that's a discussion, like we were trying to do an onboarding subcommittee, but this is our chance. We could either try to have another subcommittee, or we can pair with mentors for the 2 newer members and do the onboarding process in that fashion.
I'm also thinking sometimes the community relations can be a little light depending on where we are seasonally. We could
Sure.
almost roll that into that. And I think it'd be
Absolutely.
great too if Mike and I are on that one together, that I can kind of
Excellent.
create
And
that
then
together.
when we have one of those subcommittee meetings, we'll do it so that George can sit in on some of that as well.
Sure.
Since we didn't really get an official onboarding, sort of done through the process.
Right.
I think that document is good.
Yeah.
I just think we can make some small adjustments and then just make sure we,
And do some
Use it.
more check-ins and
Yeah.
things.
I
just-
found some towns have like a, are you interested in being a school committee member, and whole
Okay.
like layout and stuff.
Oh, that's something that would probably be helpful with the, how you say, tie-in for the community relations, just kind of build some of that information in, because I don't think a lot of people know or understand, all that we do and that we're responsible for.
I certainly do.
but you do now.
Yep.
So we'll have that be part of, community relations. So recapping, we have CES will be Jill, policy, Jill and George, goal and evaluation, Jill and George, budget and finance, Jen and Mike, community relations and onboarding, Stephanie and Mike, and calendar, Jen and Stephanie. Okay? Our first item on the consent agenda is our minutes from May 9th. They're in the folder. Mike, have you been able to get into the folder at all?
I was just granted access a couple
Okay.
minutes ago.
All right,
Should I
so
abstain
you-
from voting on the minutes since
Yes.
I have not been
Yeah.
able to review it?
that was what I was just gonna say, is you probably can abstain from voting that. Has everyone had a chance to look at those minutes? Any questions, comments, corrections, updates? Hearing none, I'll take the motion. What? Oh,
I just have one thing. Under the superintendent evaluation, it talked about him presenting the mid-cycle review. And it was really the end.
okay,
Mhm.
so, update to year end. Hi.
And I guess I don't even want to say this out loud, but it's wishful. Just to point out that in standing reports, it says the school budget will be approved at town meeting on June 5th. I think it will be presented.
Okay.
I hope it will also be approved.
Any other updates or changes? Hearing none, I'll take the motion to approve the minutes as amended.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for May 9th, 2023 as amended.
Can I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And have the record show that Mike Durham abstained due to not being on the committee yet. Next is warrants 0069 and 0071, which I have here to be signed, so we'll do that as we go. Any questions or comments on the warrants? All right, hearing none, I'll take the motion.
I'll make a motion to approve warrants 0069 and 0071.
Can I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, visitors' comments. Any citizen wishing to speak before the committee must sign in with the administrative assistant prior to the opening of the regular session of the school committee. The visitor will identify themselves by name and address and shall speak for no longer than 3 minutes. For anyone unable to sign in ahead of time, we ask that you clearly state your name and address so that this information can be included in the record for the meeting. Do we have any visitors? Nope. Okay. Student representative, Faith, I believe she's at a lacrosse game. So go Faith. Next is new business, school committee calendar. It says 23-23, but I think we mean 23-24.
Yes. And there is a document in your folder that has some proposed dates. I think Jackie built it off of the way that this year's calendar ran. I did, in looking at it, make one adjustment in January. I think originally we had January 2nd and 16th. Just don't know, like, as of January 2nd, that for, like, how much we'll have to report. So I figured pushing it out a week, and it also ends up kind of closing the gap between the last January and first February meeting.
So January would be the 9th and the 23rd.
Is what, yeah, is proposed in the calendar. It's under school,
school
CMTE dates.
Yeah, there's two different things. So the school committee dates doc has the
Proposed dates.
the proposed dates. So
And except for November 1st, they're all Tuesdays.
and November 1st is a
Wednesday,
Wednesday.
because the Tuesday is Halloween.
Okay. July 18th, I will be away.
So will I.
So, we can wait and see how we look in June before we decide. Perhaps we can, skip the July meeting or make an alternate date when we get closer to that July date. It's just so hard, with vacations and everything else in July.
And just to point out too, if we can't make one, if one person has something going on, especially in the summer, just we understand that it's summer, and as long as we have a quorum, we're fine.
Is the 29th the first day of school?
Second day of school, I believe.
We're starting on a Monday.
Students start back on Monday, so yeah,
Okay.
I think 29th. So, yeah, I think the summer's always difficult. 18th, 25th, or that August 1st would be an option. I don't know, like you said, I don't know if we want to just wait till a June meeting to discuss this, or if it would benefit people having something in there.
I think, on September 5th, that's the Tuesday after Labor Day. I think we can come back at the next June meeting and finalize the dates. Everyone can look at their calendars and kind of look and see how everything looks, and we can make adjustments. But we'll be at least two down at first glance for, July 18th. George, I know that you're,
I'm not here for any of June, and then October 17th I'll be
okay.
out as well. That's all I know so far.
Okay. Are you able to make the July 18th?
I should be able to, yeah.
So if we did that, we would have quorum. We'd have 3 people at this point, but we can revisit in the June meeting.
Technically on nights, but I can use some of you.
All right, we'll revisit this at the next meeting and finalize dates, because we're scheduled through June. We have
June 6th.
June 6th and 20th. Mike, just so that you have those dates.
June 6th and 20th.
Yep.
Okay.
We usually schedule out through June just so that it's consistent, and then the new committee will make the dates for the remainder. All right, so there's that. Next up, any further discussion on that before we move along? With that, I guess then we will move on to school choice open slots.
So there are 3 bits of information in your folder. One is the copy of the original proposal that the principals made in March, where the committee decided to postpone a vote until we had a better idea of some enrollment projections. So here we are tonight. Then there's the copy of the
I just made a copy too, sorry.
2023, 2024 proposed school choice as of 5/23/23. So that's the proposal that the principals will discuss tonight. And then there's also the 23-24 school choice applications. That's as of this morning, the number of applications we have received and in what grades we've received them.
School choice applications, why am I not here?
So a lot of information on this topic.
10 per first grade. Holy cow.
Do you want to do a quick background, Jen, of where we've been with school choice, or just what the intent?
Take it away. Have at it.
Oh,
Go for it.
You want me to?
sure.
So school choice, just to remind everyone, the idea around school choice, and we have voted that we'll participate in school choice. That's what DESI is really looking for, is to make a decision. DESI is looking for districts to make a decision as to whether or not they'll participate in a school choice program. Granby, we've already voted that. We have to notify DESI by June 1st. So that allows us to bring in students from other districts. You get basically a flat rate for those students, $5,000, but if a student is on an IEP, you get above and beyond based on the services those students receive in your district. That gets billed back to the district of residence. So, so the challenge, and it is a challenge because I think, right, it's a numbers game. There's things that we just don't know fully even now, even though we've kind of waited since March to say, what are our true numbers going to be in any given grade? And there's so many factors that we have to consider. We have to consider our current students moving out as residents, new people moving into town, potential for homeschool students moving back into the school. That is rare, but it could happen. And you also don't want to use school choice to create another classroom. So the idea of school choice is it would fill the classrooms that you're already planning to have. So if you have a grade level that has 14 students or 15 students, to bring that number to closer to 20, you might approve 3 or 4 seats in that class. Some people might say, well, why don't you open up 5 seats to get it to that 20? Because then if you have students move in, you're then potentially going over that number. It is, you're living on a razor's edge sometimes. I recognize that. There's a lot to consider for the committee, and I think we're obviously in a situation where we don't necessarily have a lot of space or capacity in this building specifically to add additional classrooms either, and that's been part of the conversation for the past few years. So we opened up applications in March. We've received 33 applications. Most of those applications, a third of those applications are in grade 1, but we have quite a few applications in our 7 through 12, which has not always been the case. You know, in the past, I think it's been a little bit easier to bring choice students in at those grade levels because they're not following a certain cohort all day. There's some options throughout the day, but it doesn't always necessarily mean we can fit everybody who applies either. So that's just general kind of information on school choice. Happy to try to answer any questions that people might have. Also happy to bring the principals up when you are ready.
I think the only other key thing to know if you're newer to this conversation is once a student is accepted as school choice, they are our student throughout their education through 12th grade.
Correct.
And then if you're already an established, you're a 4th grade school choice student, they're already accounted for in their class. So we're only looking at new school choice students, not cumulatively, because once they're in there, they're our kiddos, no different than anyone else.
Correct. Good point. And you have to treat them as such. So our students, even though Holyoke doesn't have a agreement with Pathfinder. If we accept a student in 3rd grade that lives in Holyoke, they have the same right as a Granby resident to apply to be a part of our Pathfinder partnership is one example.
But Holyoke pays for the Pathfinder partnership, right?
Yeah,
It
it's
gets
a
complicated.
convoluted.
Right.
Yes, but
So one thing I noticed is that we lost one student because we were at 666 and now we're at 665 on the 523 number. Do you know where that person was? I guess I could just look at the dashboard and then think it. Way to be self-sufficient, Jeff.
I have it right here. It is, an 8th grader had relocated out in April. And I don't have, I'll have May's at the next meeting.
Quick question, not exactly pertaining to school choice, but as far as capacity, it does. For 2023, 2024 preschool, is there going to be, is it 2 classrooms?
The plan is 3 sections, 2 classrooms, same as that we have this year.
Okay,
2 mornings and 1 afternoon.
okay. Because there was for a time, they were almost in 3, right?
Yep.
Okay, so,
Yep, but it's just 2 classroom spaces, but 3 different
correct, okay,
sections.
great. Thank you, I'm just looking at the number of classrooms.
Okay, any questions? We have both principals here too, if we have questions about the number of seats that are available.
Document about proposed schools choice availability 2023, 2024. I don't know, I feel like I'm having like a block in terms of, is that a changed or new document that we're talking about tonight?
The proposed, as of 5/23/23,
No. Is it?
there is a
Yes,
document
sorry,
as
I
of,
didn't finish reading the
Yes.
title on the top.
yes.
Okay,
That is updated based on the enrollment numbers as of this morning,
Mhm.
and the principals had reviewed that and updated their numbers based on,
It was based on some of our questions from the last
Yeah.
time.
okay, I just wanted to make sure I was understanding the March, and then that
Yeah.
was the new, I didn't see the rest of it on the, I get it.
Was there a conversation with Donna from Children First regarding K students coming into 1st grade?
yes.
Wha-
And I think we had that last time. I think it was, there were 6 students currently there. 5 of those 6 were coming. Oh, in 1st grade, yes, there are no first
Children first.
children first students coming, is my
So there's
understanding.
no students coming from, that would be entering for 1st grade?
For 1st grade,
Okay,
Because they're
Because-
all other towns.
yes.
And so the resident wouldn't be counted in her numbers anyway. We'd
Yeah.
already have them captured.
I can double check that, but yes.
my only concern, right, well, not only, but the one I'll speak to right now, is 1st grade at 35. We've seen fluctuating numbers, like to add in like spots for new families moving into town. I know we talk about this a lot, you know, you drive down all these side roads and there's all these new houses being built, and they're not small homes, they're what you would assume likely family. I get a little weary about opening 4 seats, and because that would almost max that to that 2020. And I thought that grade in the beginning of the year, if you look at the data dashboard, was larger. So I'm a little, I want to just pull that up for my own sanity and see what happened, because I thought we were closer to 38.
Lisa, do you have any?
Why don't you guys both come up just so we can have you, if you don't
I
mind.
just remember that we were closer to 38, 40 in that current K class. I'm wondering if it went to 35, when that happened.
So we have it at 37 in the last dashboard, Lisa.
And now it's at
And now it's at
35.
35.
Some of that's based on some students that had left the district
This
From-
month that they left
From
the
March
district?
to May?
recently, yes.
Because we have, the dashboard reflects up to April, end of April.
We had, I know for sure, one student who left in May. What's the number difference?
2. There's 37 in the dashboard at K.
Let me just go to my drive.
And is the K that left, was it a non-resident or a resident?
The resident.
Did do we know?
Go ahead.
So we were saying, but oh, I see.
Because then my question, my follow-up to that would be if it was resident, did they leave to go homeschool? Is there a potential of them returning in the fall?
I don't think so, they left the state.
Okay.
I guess it's it could always be a gamble, but at this point it seems pretty good.
Right. So that would, so then that number would be 36, and proposed seats would be 3.
And I just reached out to Stacy to see if she had.
I gotta write it down.
Okay, so that's the classroom, and like, obviously it's directly, you can see the amount of applications, but we just want to be cautious of potential movement. That was a grade that we've been looking really closely at, as well as incoming K. That one already reflects 0, so it's not really a question. And then, I guess, going with a slightly more reserved, if you follow down to even grade 2 at 55 in 3 rooms, that's, well, you can't do 18.3 kids, but 18, if we add in 4 more, there's, again, and then anyone moves in, we're at another potential larger.
Is there any legacy data over the past 5 years to support a percentage of gains and losses?
I could certainly put something together. You mean just students in and out of the current, of the grade levels?
It's just hard to make a decision based off, if this is what the principals recommend, but I don't know what the trends are in order to make an informed decision on what is the appropriate number outside of this 1 year request. But if we could see, projected losses over year, then we could make an informed decision on
So we
what
have,
the appropriate number
we
is.
have some of that in the enrollment dashboard.
Yeah, I wanna
It
see if
captures
it's shared
month to
with
month and
you.
year over year. So that's, it is a file that is shared with you
Okay, great.
in there.
And I just shared it with you again, so it should be in your email.
Thank you.
And I
It
think-
has last year and this year.
I think the other piece too is that enrollment trends historically across the state have been going down over the past few years. And we've just been obviously watching this, our town specifically, because we have to make decisions like this. And as many students that tend to leave for various reasons, we have the influx that tend to kind of move into, and it tends to balance itself out. But we're still trying to do is teeter on that line with class size and all of those pieces to make sure that when we're opening up seats, it's not triggering some additional classroom or some additional supports or things like that for students. So in a sense, the long-term data is helpful, but it may not be helpful for the decision for this year when we have to make it based on the students that we have in front of us.
Okay.
And again, there's also things that could change between now and September, which might mean additional seats open, or it might mean, I wish we didn't open up as many seats as we did, and that is the razor's edge, and like there is a financial benefit to us if it's done right, but it could cost us
In the long run.
both ways. If we don't add, if we say we're gonna do nothing, we could lose potential finances or revenue for that, or if we go over, it could cost us more bringing in additional services or teachers.
And then,
Lisa?
Oh, I just want to, the question was on first grade. for next year, the amount of slots right now, we have 34 students expected to be in first grade.
So that's even lower than what shows in the dashboard.
Yep.
So the current K right now is 34.
There could be some differences between what's in the dashboard and what we know about next year about students leaving permanently at the end of the year. So, like, some of that, I don't have all that information, but the teachers have vetted this list, and so we currently have 34 for first grade. So that does,
And the dashboard reflects
17
people who
each
have
class.
withdrawn, not that we've heard might withdraw.
exactly, right,
And so this is, we're talking first grade, not kindergarten.
correct.
Next
Yep.
year's first
This
grade.
year's kindergarten going up.
Okay. All right.
And then just to go back to Mike's question about the data too, we also have considered, we look at census data a lot too, to kind of project for, so we know right now we're in kind of a downward with the kindergarten and 1 for next year. It's a smaller group. We've kind of tracked for the next year after this as well. It's a smaller current pre-K 4 age. So, but then we also have seen where
We're gonna have a COVID
toddlers, right, 2 right now, per the census data, is a large group.
We have a COVID
So,
boom in town.
so there's, right, so you're gonna see likely over the next few years, that number of classrooms for K and 1 that currently are 2 might move up to 3, and then they might go to 2 in different grade levels. So it fluctuates that much. And the big thing is obviously too, that this building specifically at East Meadow, there's a capacity classroom issue where we don't have as many classrooms as we wish we did.
That was very, very diplomatic way to say
Thank you.
And to clarify the piece from Children First, in the school attending report from January, there was 1 Granby resident attending Children First, and when we reached out to Children First, we just hadn't heard back about that one specific student in that grade.
And of course, too, that's just our working relationship with Donna at Children First. There are other centers and places that
Yep.
residents could be enrolled at outside of
Yep.
Children First.
Yes.
that. Okay, so do you want to start with the higher grades because it's a little bit easier of a discussion and come back, or do we want to start with the lower grades?
I think starting with the older grades is a nice way to get
I like
moving.
the older grades.
And I love seeing the increased numbers. That's terrific.
Come on up, Allie. All right, so the grade 7, this is for currently grade 6, going into grade 7. So we have one, oh, no, we don't want to look at that. We don't want to have it. So on this one, I should be looking at 6. So we have 46 students in that grade, in current grade 6 that will be grade 7. I need to pull up the other one. I had the wrong one open, sorry.
I have a silly question already right off the bat.
Go.
Looking at the grade 7 with, if all return 45 and the proposed being 5, and then grade 8 being 55 with 5. Is there, just curious, the difference of, is there an advantage to opening up or having a larger group in a 8th grade cohort versus a 7th?
No, we currently have scheduled 2 grade 7 classrooms and 3 grade 8. So any additional would be putting some of these numbers higher, right? You're getting up in the high 20s. So we would have to go back to our schedule that is finished and add a 3rd. We just don't have a teacher.
Right,
Okay.
so I think maybe the easier way to look at that, right, like that number of classrooms, even though we stop it at grade 6, we know this year's grade 6 is a 2 classroom grade. So the planning that we've started to do there was as though they're a 2 classroom grade.
So the,
And the current
Grand total
7th
of
grade
50
was a
would be
3
25 and
classroom
25.
grade, so we plan them
and
as
it
a
could be, we
3
could
classroom
squish
grade.
in if we had room.
But this doesn't consider new families moving in,
Right.
which last year we saw a great number of students move in last minute, like the week before school started. So we weren't anticipating that number, so I'm trying to leave some
Some
wiggle
room.
room.
Mhm.
And if we need to revisit it, we certainly can. But I'm just kind of weary about that piece, right?
Yeah,
The week before
absolutely.
school, when people are jumping ship last minute after
Mhm.
they move and settle in, and then all of a sudden they're reaching out. And we still do get students that trickle in like the first couple months.
Mhm. Okay,
With
thank
the
you.
trickle in, is it more school choice that are happening late, or is it resident movement? It's to both of you.
Typically, what I've seen is if you're getting a school choice, numbers usually are mid-year. So you get a big you get a big move in right over like when the applications open.
Mhm.
And then you get the families that are moving in and settling in. But it's hard, right? I can really only speak to the last couple of years of my experience. Last year was just kind of nuts.
So I think one way to look at it on the enrollment dashboard, August enrollment as of last year was 728. We went 726, 724, 727, 726. So that's K through 12. So like, I think it
Including
really
school choice.
is a trickle in, like one here, two there, two might leave, two others might come in, and that's the ebb and flow.
Right,
of
but
it.
that number includes the school choice.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep, and then to Ally's point, in January, we went up to 732, so we saw a little bit more of a bump at that mid-year mark.
Okay, great. I think I was just thrown with the number of classrooms. Like if I saw that, that would have been a quick answer, but that makes sense now.
Yeah.
Okay, so want to go grade by grade, or do you want to do the whole? So we've got 5 proposed for grade 7, 5 for grade 8, 12 for grade 9, 10 for grade 10, 10 for grade 11, and 5 for grade 12. Any discussion on those proposed seats for the junior, senior high school?
And with adjusting your numbers, I know Ally went back and forth with this, these are numbers that you're comfortable with based on resident enrollment, staffing, class, like course schedules, all of those pieces with, you know, a little cushion too for that back
And I
and
think
forth.
we've taken all those things into consideration. There was a good increase to grade 9. As you know, we see students that go out in grade 8. The tricky thing is if we have 11 interested in either leaving Granby to go to Amherst, Ludlow, Chitcomb, Pope, Pathfinder, or Smith, they're not all guaranteed. So I take that in consideration as well. So
Did you say there's 11 that are for?
yeah, but those are just people through conversations with students, as we meet with the students, if they have expressed interest, you know, I'd like to go to Pathfinder, and then they don't commit. So if we have, you know, students that are interested, it's all good, they attend the meeting, but then last minute they say, oh, no, it's not for me.
Right.
So with all of those in mind, I looked at that. We have one definite for Path. We haven't gotten official commitments yet.
And this is for the incoming freshman class.
Yeah.
So I know of one definite for Smith Voc.
Yep, I have one
And
definite.
then I know
3.
another one that's definite for Smith Voc that is actually a school choice student that we didn't know was a school choice student. So that's 2 for Smith Voc.
Right, so when I say like, this is based on what they communicate to us.
Right.
So you could hear something completely different from the parent. The student could be like, no, I really don't want to go. So we get, you know, until we get the parent at our doorstep, the caregiver at our doorstep, that's when we go with it.
Okay.
So as of right now, I have one confirmed for Smith, one in the works from what you're saying, which I am aware of. One definite for Path out of 4, one definite for Pope, one definite for Chitcomb, one definite for Ludlow, and one maybe for returning to Amherst.
Okay. All right.
And then good news for the incoming 7th grade. Was there any temp check on what that looked like as far as, I know we talked about this prior about, you know, traditionally there's that slope. I don't believe there's a big number this
I
year.
heard a couple rumblings, but again, I'll believe it when I see
Correct.
it. We haven't been communicated to,
Okay.
you know, and again, you wait until, like, we had step-up night, and we had great attendance,
Mhm.
and so we just go with it from when we see it and we hear it.
Great.
It's hard because you can be led to believe so much, but until they come in and say, we are doing this,
Mhm.
we've learned to kind of just, everyone's returning unless we hear otherwise.
Okay.
Great.
All right, so, any further discussion? So that 12 for the freshman class incorporates the potential loss of 11.
Mhm.
Okay. So that would bring the 51 down to 40, which, all right, I see what you're doing. Got it. Okay. Wow, and there's already 9 that are non-resident in that class. Crazy. Okay. If any other discussion on 7 through 12 numbers? If not, I'll take a motion for those proposed school choice seats, 7 through 12.
I'll make a motion to approve the proposed school choice availability for 2023 to 2024 in grades 7 through 12 as presented.
Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Oh, yep.
All right, all those in favor? Aye. All right, now the hard part.
Okay. That was the easy one. There's a lot more room over there. We don't have to.
K through 6. I just don't even know how to tackle this. Do we want to do grade by grade, or I can read them? I'll read them like I did for the other one, and then we can have discussion. 0 for K, 4 for first grade, 4 for second grade, 0 for third grade, 1 for fourth grade, 0 for fifth grade, and 3 for sixth grade. Discussion, comments, questions?
I'll just throw out there one thing that we didn't discuss tonight as part of the things to consider is first grade. Specifically, I think first grade is a place where siblings are trying to get in because they already have siblings in the district. And there is the potential if sibling number 2 can't get in, that we lose sibling number 1. That would be a family decision, obviously. So it's just another one of those factors that, like, while we're aware of it, it's difficult to put, like, our thumb on it.
Right.
And as much as I feel for that, it's tough because that same scenario could be for any of the grades that have a 0. I mean, the current 6th grade has been a 0 school choice in for years. I know many families, so I feel for that. It's really tricky. That's kind of part of the gamble with school choice, but also we can't prioritize certain students coming in either off of, this one has this many siblings or anything like that. So I just want to make that very clear that there's no preference given.
Well, siblings get preference.
But not, like, there could be multiple, like, I believe there's more than 4 families that are in
Right.
that grade level.
Siblings would get preference, but if there's more sibling applicants and then there are spaces available, they too would go to a lottery.
Right, perfect.
Yeah, so siblings have the first run at the number of seats that are open, and then it's open to families that are just coming in. And if, in either situation, we have to go to a library,
Go to lottery.
a lottery, it would be a sibling
Yep.
lottery first. And then we would present that, and if they don't take it, then we would move on to the
Yep.
next.
So like the lottery isn't just you get in, you're not in. The lottery says
This order.
this is the order.
Mhm.
There's 3 seats. This is the order for the 10 applicants.
Okay.
Yeah, it's tricky with this, with East Meadow, obviously we all know just because of the capacity, and that if there's an increase and there's 3 that move in and we're already at 57, taking in 3, that's 60. That's the tricky part of, for me, just for some background, why this one sits a little harder than the high school, because the high school, it's not a grade level class that you're in all day long, that you can, with scheduling and everything, the way it moves is a little bit more available, I should say, or, can fluctuate a bit more. So just to not feel like it's, not being looked at equally, there's just a lot more for me, my brain to process at East Meadow. If anyone else has comments on numbers, I'd be.
I have a question. The administrators put this number request together. Why do you think these numbers are appropriate?
Well, in looking at the numbers, I looked at current class sizes, and then also, we also have to look at the needs in each classroom and some of the other pieces that is making up the grade levels. It's really not tied to staffing because we have the teachers. It's really all about how big the classes are, and if there's a grade level that has a lot of needs, then sometimes we have to look at the classrooms and recognize we might have to have less students in those classrooms.
So these are feasible though?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the concern is one of the individual grades may have too many? I'm just trying to follow along.
Yeah, so although I know that all of this has been looked at, obviously, and collaborated with teachers and administration, and I completely appreciate that. It's just that seeing the data, because we do review it, month after month for years, we see, I just feel like I've definitely seen how increases of all of a sudden you have 5 more kids in a grade level that, a lot of people that move in August, for instance, you'll see that number goes up. And if we are not maxing out, but kind of creating that number 60, which would be a great 2020, and then we have 5 that move in, and now we have larger sizes, it doesn't give us that room. And then unfortunately, because we are the decision makers, it's kind of falls back on, well, you should have known. That happens a lot, right? Like a lot of times people move in August, or, there's those shifts. So I feel like it's almost history of just some of this happening. It's a little more.
So do you want to reduce by 1 in grade level 1 and 2? Is that what you're proposing?
I'm not even necessarily.
She was looking at grade 6 in particular.
Grade 6.
I'm looking at, grade 6, max is at that 60. And just a little, it's interesting because like grade 4 is at 58, and then, there's 1, so that'd be the 59. There's a little bit of, grade 3 is already at 60, that one's already maxed. So just kind of keeping numbers, if we have 55 and 4, I don't know, it's just, it doesn't seem like a lot when we say like 1 or 2 students, but.
So do you want to reduce by 1 and keep that margin a little bit greater?
I would just want to know what other people thought about potentially either keeping it as it is or reducing by 1 to be on the safer or more, not safer, it's all.
And I don't know, Lisa, if you want to speak to considering, did you leave space for move-ins or?
Just wiggle room. I'd just like to speak to the 6th grade because currently we have numbers that are around 22, 23, and it works. And students are more capable. They need less assistance with things like they do in the lower elementary grades, like getting ready for going outside in the snow or helping to find their lunch. So the teachers manage it quite well. And in fact, in 6th grade, they feel very middle school. So I feel like the capacity to have a few more students in 6th grade works. Much more so than the lower elementary.
Is there a maximum number of seats?
No, not that I'm aware of.
Okay, so it's at our discretion?
Correct.
And your recommendation is that's appropriate and functional?
There's a maximum number
Okay.
of like cubbies, or like the room was designed for a set number. I think that I'm gonna get it wrong. I want to say 24, but I don't know that that's exactly right.
Yeah, I don't have that.
And I don't know that right, like that's not policy, that's just design. But I know we've talked, this committee's
26.
talked about that before, just because one of the grades has been a bit larger, and I think to Lisa's point, they might be able to maintain a little bit better. They're also, by and large, bigger people than the first graders, so what was intended to be 25 feels tighter for 25. That's some of what I've heard in the past, just trying to share some of the history.
As well as the committee as a whole, like we kind of set that, what's our utopian classroom look like? That's where, I think sometimes that number 20 is when it gets referenced, that was how long ago? Like there's the continuous conversations of what can we provide our students at these different classroom sizes or resources and things like that. So we as the committee kind of decide on what that looks like.
Okay.
So, for incoming K, 0 seats, available. I'll take a motion.
Is it motion to approve grade level K at 40 seats for the?
Just not opening any school choice at this time.
Okay. What's the proper way to say it?
Just like that.
A
Just
motion to approve grade level K at
0.
the recommended amounts for school year 23-24.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Grade 1. We have any discussion for grade 1? So 4 seats, Lisa, brings you to a grand total of 39. So that's a little bit of wiggle room, and 1 is okay with 20 and 20 in each classroom.
Actually, the 4 seats would bring us to 38, which would be at a max of 19 per class.
This is the unrecorded one who left.
I'm looking at next year's
Yep.
draft list.
All right, so
I
is-
hope I didn't confuse you, sorry.
Well, yeah, so we just made we may have to rescind our motion. So is kindergarten, we comfortable with a number of 40 for kindergarten?
But it's about the proposed seats, right? So the
Right, so
proposed seats was
proposed
0.
seats
No
was
seats
0,
for
but
kindergarten.
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
taking into consideration that we're looking at the 40 to keep 20 in each of the classrooms. But if we know that we're down to 37 because people are leaving, then does it give us the chance to open a seat in kindergarten, right? So that's where I'm,
I mean, I would still say no,
I would
because
not,
that number's very close, even with those 2 classrooms. Even when we're fluctuating around, 34, 35, or whatever it is, those 4 seats are still only gonna put you at 38, 39, not 40.
okay, I understand.
and
stand
there's at
corrected.
least one resident staying at Children First
For
for
kindergarten.
kindergarten that we're aware of, at least one there.
All right, so, so are there any of these other numbers that are on the sheet that are not accurate as far as total number in the class?
I think, and I can be completely off base, but I think the point is that, Lisa's kind of in good faith using information that people have shared with her about their intention of whether or not they're staying or leaving for next year, but that I haven't officially unenrolled or withdrawn or things like that, which is what the enrollment dashboard accurately reflects. So the 2 just haven't kind of caught up and coincided yet because of that piece. And for me, I'm less concerned about those couple of differences because you've accounted for them kind of either way. So I don't, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think you would have proposed seats solely based on those people that have verbally committed that they won't be here and haven't withdrawn.
No, we're still counting them as being here. We have a number of students that we know have a very good chance of not being here next year, but we did not include them because they haven't unofficially enrolled.
I understand that. I'm just looking to see if, if there's information that we already know, we're at 34 or whatever it is already or 33 or whatever it is for the first grade, and we're doing that. I just think it helps us to look at the bigger picture. That's all where I understand what you're saying. I'm just looking at it in a different way is all. So, I'll stop. So we're at first grade. 4 seats for first grade. Any further discussion? Do you want to do more than 1 grade at a time? Are we comfortable with the other numbers? We can do 1st through 6?
And personally, I'm good with all of them, and it's unfortunate we can't open up first for more, because seeing all the requests that are pending there, but it is what it is. We'd have to
Right.
open up a whole new room, which we don't have.
And we can always revisit this based on numbers throughout
Right,
the
yeah.
summer.
Once we get the concrete,
Right.
numbers.
All right. So however you all want to do it, but I'll take the motion for the next round, either 1 through 6, or we can go grade by grade.
And you want to pose to the,
You want to do it
Okay.
jointly? I'm fine with that.
yeah. I'll make a motion to approve the first through sixth grade as presented for 2023-2024 for school choice.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
I have it.
We have, it's in the folder. Okay. And I'm sure we'll be revisiting this again once we have some information, because we do have requests. So if there's a lot of movement and juggling, we can come back and look at it again. You'll just keep us
Yep.
posted?
Yep, and we can keep it as part of when we talk about the enrollment dashboard, we can just keep school choice discussion as a discussion point until the committee feels there may need to be a vote, and we can add that to the agenda at any point.
Excellent.
We'll be keeping a close eye on it over the summer for sure.
Excellent. Okay, next up is the transportation contract.
So I provided information at the last meeting. It's in the May 9th folder. I communicated with TMS, who was the lead, and through where no other concerns were brought forward, so we're ready to move forward with the contract
So
for the next 3 years.
I'm sorry, it's in the May 9th folder?
Yes.
I don't have access to the May 9th folder.
I will get you that right now.
Thank you.
Or can you just share it to the current folder tab? So it's, please.
Transportation joint bid.
We'll just put it in the right, in this folder, it should be. I just messed up.
I made a copy and put it in this folder.
Excellent, thank you. Can you see it now, Mike?
I just put it there. It should be copy of transportation joint
Yep, there.
Yep, I see it. Thank
bid
you.
April 26th. Yeah.
No, I can't see it. Why am I not seeing
There it is, copy of transportation joint bid. If you hit F5 and refresh the screen, it might pop up.
Yeah, there it is. Awesome. Thank you. So it's with DATCO still
No.
then?
It's with first student. So the first student bid, which the DACO bid, and the way that I broke it out at the May 9th meeting, they had an additional fuel charge
Right.
that created the kind of the irregularity in the bid process, and it put their cost above first students. So first student for us in the collective bid with Belchertown and Ware is $707,950 each year for the 3 years.
So in the last one, it showed fuel, and it just showed that, 2 columns were blank, and then 2
Yeah.
had costs, but this one just doesn't have it at all.
This
Yes.
is one of the 2 documents that I put in. So this
Oh,
document
okay.
here has all 3
Maybe you can
communities
go down lower.
in it.
That's
It has
the
Belchertown,
breakdown.
Granby, and Ware. And then we have some of those add-ons further down.
Okay, sorry, I didn't see that other page. I just got confused on looking at totals.
Right. That's probably why they did it that way too, is to make it look like their bid is smaller and then be like, oh, hey, surprise.
But right, embedded in the bid was that additional fuel cost.
Surprise! That's the kind
Good
of
old
surprise I
military
like.
contract stuff.
And so that's where their collective bid
Or
was
right there.
$756,
Gotcha.
$192.
Okay.
All right.
I will take the motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the transportation contract.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next, Chartwells.
The Chartwell's contract is a you did an extended contract, a regular contract last year, but DESI requires an annual renewal of it, so it is procedural requirement.
Is it in the folder?
Yes, there is
Granby
Granby
projection.
PS,
Gotcha.
MA,
Andy.
and then there is Ken from Chartwell's put
Mhm.
together a proposed projections for the next 2 years. So Granby projection FY 23-24 is also in there.
So is this, where are we with the free lunch, and will that impact us for this?
So it is continuing for the remainder of this school year. It's been proposed for next school year. And so we're still operating with all students having their primary meal as a free meal.
Okay.
If you remember last year, I think it got approved by the legislature in August.
Yeah, it was like
or-
late,
Yeah,
yeah.
we had this conversation over and over and over, and right before school year started, it got approved. I know it's been in, forgive me, I can't remember which, it's been in one of the governor's budget or the House, or the Senate, but not all three, so it's kind of going through the process, but it's difficult to say where it will land. I know there's a lot of advocacy behind it,
Mm-hmm.
but
Okay. Is there specific wording that we need to read, or just a regular motion?
I believe regular motion to renew the contract.
Okay. If there aren't any further questions, I'll take the motion.
I'll make the motion to vote to renew Chartwell's contract with us for the 2023-2024 school year.
Okay. Oh.
Mine was just the motion.
Just the motion. Can I
I'll
have-
second.
All right, excellent. My brain just stopped right there. I'm sorry about that. All those in favor?
Aye.
So I'll make a motion to bring
Awesome.
forward.
All right, next up is enrollment dashboard, which we really just kind of talked about. So I don't know.
and the enrollment dashboard
Will
hasn't
be-
been updated, but
it'll
I'll
be
get it for
June.
the.
Yeah, it'll be for June. Okay. Next is the field trip update.
Sure. So a couple of questions have come my way from different committee members about the Florida field trip. So I have reached out to our council in regards to that. Basically, she said, because the committee voted on the trip, it becomes a school-sponsored trip. You know, I think in the future, the committee could get notice about a trip like that and not approve it, and then it keeps it separate from the schools. And she also said, based on some of the information I provided to her, that we can't revote to clarify that at this point. So for the trip for next year, it will be considered a school trip. We have reached out to our insurance company. She asked me to reach out to our insurance company, and I have reached out to them about liability coverage to make sure that it's covered because it's out of state. Our insurance company is not under our current insurance. So the insurance company provided some waivers. I shared that back with Kimberly, and I have not received a reply from her on that with next steps. So I can continue to keep you all posted, but she said we should make sure the insurance carrier can provide the liability. They don't for that right now, but I shared back what they sent to her. And, yeah, so that's the update based on the information that was requested.
Is there an update regarding, because when the motion was read, we had stated the parameters being that it would, align with IJOA as far as like, I know that I had emailed you and asked about like the background check because they sent back, Florida has two different, is it going to align with our,
Policy, I
policy,
had
because
forwarded the
that's a-
committee back what the reply from the company back in February or March.
Because my understanding is that there's two and one does not include any criminal record check, which would be similar to the quarry. And if this is school sponsored, that's just a sticky one for me. That I just want to ensure this is a school sponsored trip, that that it is in line with our policy.
Any
I
other?
can follow up with Kimberly on that. I'll try to find.
All right, if there's nothing else, then we'll move on to, is there anything else for the,
I'm just looking back to see. Bus company we use for services does background check all their driver's license.
I think the question was in kind of what way?
So yeah, I sent that to the
I just felt like we
committee
talked
and
about that as a whole, and like, we're quicker to approve it because we said, it was going to be pending, and that just gave us that confidence to back it. And we just want to make sure that that's,
yeah, and I forwarded that reply to you all on February 14th.
Yeah, and I think the piece that it was referenced the background check, but not necessarily,
what type?
I guess people's versions of what a background check is could look very different, and it could look different state to state, and if they're doing them in Florida and it looks different than what we would assume would be done in Massachusetts, it should be at least commensurate.
Okay, I'll double check with Kimberly on that to make sure that the background check is the equivalent of what we have for a quarry. I know Kimberly said we could quarry them. I just don't know what that looks like. Because, right, like, if you quarry a bus driver who is then sick once they're in Florida, and there's a sub bus driver, like, so I would just need some more information on what that looks like. So I will follow up on that.
Okay, next is policy IJOA. It has vote, but I think this is considered our first read.
Yeah, and light first read, just because we wanted to get this out in front of people before, I think making like the final revisions.
Right, and so we can have questions and comments and stuff and have discussion, because this really sort of came about because of this Florida trip and the Martha's Vineyard trip that just happened for the senior class. Just some questions on how it all goes. So reading IJOA, the first reading Audrey's notes on the side is the yellow highlighted areas are addition to MASC's original policy. So one I'm looking at is with for overnight or out of state trips. It says with forms being submitted at least 6 weeks in advance of the trip. And I was wondering if you chose 6 weeks for a particular reason, or what the thought process was.
Well, what we did was we spent some time, because we met last week, spent some time looking at other school districts' policies, looking at masks, trying to decipher what the blue note kind of that mask had. We highlighted that just to kind of really figure out where we were at. And we highlighted that piece because we knew we wanted it in advance of the trip, but we weren't sure what the time frame should be, and we didn't know if it should be the forms being kind of in advance of the trip, and then the fundraising activities going through the approval of the appropriate administrator all together, so that like the fundraising didn't start for a trip until it was, you know, accepted and approved. But that's where we kind of went back and forth, but knew we wanted something in there earmarked so that there was time and notice, where it wasn't like something was presented and all of this needed to start by, you know, the next week. And so therefore it was important that we saw it, we met on it, we voted on it on the very same time frame.
Okay. I don't have a problem with the 6 week. I was just wondering if it was like a number that you had seen or whatever, because it makes sense. And I'm just thinking the school trip is the Florida trip is certainly in, and I'm wondering if the Martha's Vineyard trip made it for the 6 weeks, or if it might have been about 6 weeks. So I'm just wondering, like, for some of those, like for the class trips and stuff, they may not make the decision in 6 weeks in time to get it approved for that. So we can certainly enforce it, obviously, but I wouldn't want that to be like a stop for them. But 6 weeks is 6 weeks, so I don't think it really matters. That was just one question that I had.
I think the other piece too, and you'll see it with the JJHR that was highlighted and linked in there, we didn't have a current JJHR, but there was some language. So the way it kind of looked was JJH, JJHR, and IJOA were kind of all pieced together, and then there were some specifics added to different places to kind of distinguish what you saw from the class trips to the day trips to the overnight trips to the whatever other examples there were for field trips. And I think when Audrey and I met, what we tried to do was be kind of as concise as possible to avoid some of those like redundancies, and then also the places where the policy itself tended to contradict itself. So, you know, is it a class trip or an overnight trip? If it's a class trip, like which are you looking under? Like what does this mean? Like what should we be following? Like all those pieces that led to a lot of ambiguity. So we came up with just adding those pieces, and then to make sure that there was the procedural aspect of things, so that like you know, what the supervision looked like, what, you know, all those pieces that we've talked about kind of in the previous situation with, you know, safety and insurance, and then all those pieces, was that line underneath about the superintendent being responsible for the production, distribution, and updating of, and again, it could be procedures within the handbook. We had talked about a separate field trip handbook, which contains procedures and protocols for all field trips. So that would be something like internal, and I know Stephen had mentioned it could be a part of student handbooks so that we see them. But that's where that piece came from as well.
Yeah, I just felt having it part of the student handbook, the committee has to vote on that each year, so be it me or somebody else that could put something in there that the committee might say, like, why do we have to give 120 days notice for this? Or why is the chaperone ratio now 25 to 1 adult, right? Like the committee would have some oversight and be able to say, like, this is a change, so. And I think, like Jill said, I'm guessing the policy started as something, and then situations came up and things got added, and it made it more convoluted than it was ever intended to.
Right.
So, like pulling back and going with these 3 policies and then a procedural approach to it, I think should
I was
address
on the
some of those
policy
things.
subcommittee, my first couple of years, and we found that a lot going through, just, situational things added.
Yeah.
And working with Kimberly and, previous superintendent, just tried to streamline it so it matched. And I think we're pretty well caught up now with looking at all of the policies, so it's just gonna be easier and easier going through to just kind of, stay on top of it. So, these are all first read, so we'll put them on the agenda for next time for a vote. If there's any other questions, you can email, Jill and or Stephen so that we can be ready to vote on it, for the next meeting.
And, you know, I think the intention is to just have the pieces figured out with any input in terms of the 6 weeks, if
Mhm.
that's okay, if that makes sense. The note that's there in blue, we'd obviously take out. We just wanted to leave it there so people knew that that was referenced in the original mask policy. And then the green highlighted could be adjusted to just reflect like within student handbooks or, you know, things like that. But we just wanted kind of that placeholder there too. And then JJH, JJHR, we're kind of as is standalone, good to go.
Yeah, because they're right from masks, so.
Mhm.
Okay. Any other questions on these?
I think just one other thing, if people are gonna dive into these policies over the next couple of weeks, IJOAE 1 through 4 are essentially permission slips that are connected to these policies. I feel like they could come out as policies and be included in the procedural part, but I will defer to the committee based on what they think. But there's 4 in there that are about field trip request forms and things like that. It's really, I think, procedural. Typically, we don't have permission slips in our policy manual, so
Right.
just another area that's connected to this that might be worth taking a look at. And I'm certainly fine leaving them, but as we look through the procedures, things might have to get tweaked, which would then have to come back to the
Sure.
policy.
Okay, anything else on those? Hearing none, we'll move on to the superintendent evaluation.
Okay, so everybody sent along their evaluations, which was great, and I was able to compile everything together, and it is in the folder to reference. I don't know, Stephen, if you were given a hard copy to bring, but I did end up printing one when I got here today. So if we, at the end, are signing and dating or whatever that looks like, we'll be able to do that.
Great.
But if the gist of it was, everyone's really pleased with, you know, Stephen's work, and his efforts and commitment to Granby. There was a lot of consistency that I noticed throughout kind of everyone's evaluations. And if people were kind of slightly different in some ratings or things like that, it wasn't by very much at all. And overall, noting, you know, progress towards goals at the end of this cycle were all noted as met. Overall as proficient in all standards, with the overall rating being proficient. And definitely, you know, added all the comments that were given to, so that they were there to read through and reflect on, you know, as people wanted, and, you know, as Stephen wanted to as well.
Do you have any comments or questions, Stephen, on our comments?
It's a lot to digest.
We're all pretty verbose, that's for sure.
No, and I appreciate the feedback, and again, it's a credit to you all and the leadership team and the teachers and the faculty. I think I've said last year, probably at this point, or in my mid-cycle review, that a lot of the evidence and things isn't my work alone. It comes from a team, you know, I think it's been pretty clear that I work of the mindset that we are better together than we are as individuals. And I'm fortunate to be on a team that is strong and I think is really bought into our vision for the work that we want to do in this district. I think we've recognized some areas. I think there's a line in here that I just saw. While anyone can recognize there will always be areas for growth and need for improvement, there have been many positive steps forward. I think that like really sums it up. I don't think we're ever at a place where the work is done. I think we're on a trajectory, and I think we've taken some positive steps, and we've also had a step backwards on a few things that have come up. And while those might be frustrating times in the moment, I think we've kind of taken a like can-do attitude, and I think sometimes we might need to vent to each other in the office and then kind of go back out there and say, like, this is still the work. Like, the work hasn't changed. I think we've said that around the budget. I think we've said that around some of our curriculum initiatives that, all right, you're going to hit bumps and hiccups along the road, but the work doesn't change. We're here for the students. How do we put the best in front of them? How do we equip our teachers so that they can be at the best place for students, be it socially, emotionally, academically? And I'm 6 years in, and I still enjoy working in Granby. I really feel like a part of the community, and I appreciate the feedback and kind words and look forward to continuing the work moving forward.
Excellent. Sorry, I just got bombarded with softball videos. I was trying to like get it off my phone. Sorry.
I'd much rather watch a softball video.
I don't know, third grade softball is a very, I'm like, stop, make it stop.
So we will sign this. Now Audrey's name is on here. Last year we all signed it. We could probably have her sign it if we want. I'm sure we could reach out, or we can just sign.
Yeah, I mean, it's either way, like if she's available to do it, that's great, and if not, certainly she contributed.
Right.
But,
It's up to you.
Yeah, and I think too, Mike, I'm happy to have Audrey sign if she's available and willing. I think part of this, Mike, is we're still trying to find our footing in the evaluation process. I think last year it was done, we went through the process. This year, we recognized pretty early on that there were 3 seats that were open on this committee, and the committee was gracious enough to say that, well, you're going to be with this committee for a majority of the year, so they were willing to move the evaluation up a little bit so that the committee that I sat with for the year, this current year, could do the evaluation. After all that, there's only 1 new person, not 3 new people, so I think that's just some of the context. And I've seen, just over the past year, I've paid a little bit more of attention to it. I've seen some evaluations that get completed in the fall for the previous year, and some that are getting done right around now. So it seems like it's really up to like what the district preference is. But that's just a little context
Thank you. Appreciate
to
it.
share with you.
I will say personally, I know it's a lot of work at the end, but I like the cycle that we're getting to and having it done with the committee. I feel like it just makes the most sense because it's hard to look at the evidence and be a part of, to evaluate something that you weren't really a part of, part of. So I think we're doing better. We can turn the corner here and start when, we have our newer goals and things like that, but just kind of keep it and do mid-year when I think we did it.
In February.
Yeah, we could, try to push it back a little bit if you wanted to keep it a little more even, but so I'll start, we'll pass this around and we'll see if Audrey,
so the 2 warrants. There's no long lines that you want to sign.
So I just want to thank Stephen, obviously, for all of his work and everyone for doing this, Jill especially for organizing. I just have a quick question moving forward because I love the way that we're doing this. But while I was filling it out and struggling trying to get my X's and check marks, mine was kind of a mess. I'm just curious, is this something that we may want to consider making an editable, fillable PDF so that it's more cohesive and less work for you to then combine it into one. Because, you know, whether someone printed it and then hand wrote it and then some did checks and X's, and like I said, I know I did that myself. I just don't want to
No.
overload you with more work if we're
It's-
not all,
This is my like scratch sheet, so
Right.
in case people want to know, like I count that I have the totals, I divide it all up, I average them all together.
just considering you're the one doing it, I just want to, if there's a way to make it easier for you, please just let us know. And I'm sure that we'll all
Yeah.
be willing to do whatever. Like I said, I couldn't get a stinking X through the box for the life of me.
Well, and I had done something with check boxes on my own, and then when I got to this one, I had originally tried to do something with just like, oh, well, I'll just make a copy of mine, and then I'll erase all those boxes, and then add everyone's comments and go from there. And then formatting wise, it like totally messed it up.
It'll
So
be
I
so
was like,
easy.
I was like, nope, we're gonna just start over and just transfer everything. So it is a learning process for all of it, but it's fine.
We
It
could maybe
wasn't
make
that
like
bad.
like a shell Excel sheet, just to have like a shell to fill in, and then you just copy and paste.
Yeah, but then someone's gotta create it into the Excel.
If you
'cause
keep it
this
really
is the-
simple, it's not
This
too
is the
bad.
DESI,
Yeah.
template, which we can always visit, but that was a vote that we took probably about 4 years ago to, this is your
Well,
second
that's
full
my
year.
second.
That's why my brain went just right to an Adobe PDF because it's super easy. Like it'll keep
Right.
it in the exact way it already is. It takes minutes. I do it all the time for work. That's how we fill out
I'll send you all
everything.
mine from now on.
It's fine.
Oh, just whatever was easier was what I was getting at. But thank you.
Yeah.
This looks terrific.
Oh, that's good.
Another job well done.
Yes.
I'm self-teaching PDF at work right now.
Okay, anything
Only
else
things
on
that Adobe.
that? That will go to your superintendent's report.
Yeah. I'm
This
the,
time of year, I
total
tell you,
management job is
there's
basically-
a lot going on. So, annual town meeting scheduled to resume on Monday, June 5th at 7 PM here at East Meadow. I know there are 7 or 8 articles still to go through, the school budget being one, along with some of the other budgets in town. So that is coming up in a little less than 2 weeks. Reminder, we are looking for Charter Day volunteers. I know it's a busy weekend with graduation and everything, but one of those steps that we're trying to take to make sure that the schools are a part of town events such as Charter Days. The summer school interest form was sent out a couple of weeks ago to students at East Meadow. The focus is students who next year will be in grades 1 through 5. Those forms are due back by this Friday. We have received a decent amount of interest, 15 or so people, 15 to 20 have reached out. So we are actively planning for that. I do want to address the Ready Work, racial equity, diversity, inclusion. I did send a letter out about some hateful graffiti that we had in the bathroom of the junior senior high school a couple weeks ago. Leadership team, students, staff continue to work together to respond to that. There was a student meeting with some different student organizations were represented at that. It was a very good conversation about some things that are working, some things students would like to see in the schools, and just some potential next steps. The equity team at the junior senior high school is kind of been being reinvigorated this year. They met again today, had a similar conversation, and we're still working to schedule a community conversation. The police department has been a good partner in that. We were just waiting to hear back from the district attorney's office about some resources, and I actually played phone tag with someone from CES today, just on some ways to frame that conversation, what that might look like. So work to be done in that area for sure. So also want to give a shout out to Mrs. Dorman's high school marine biology class. they had the idea, and it's a mixed grade level, they had the idea to host second graders from East Meadow last week. All 3 second grade classes got to come over to the junior senior high school, and I got down there for one of them. And the students in Mrs. Dorman's class created the learning experience. It was really an experiential learning experience. It was hands-on. Students were engaged. It was all around marine biology. And they set up 5 different stations. They were sifting through sand for shark teeth. They were coloring the color of different algae and coral, learning about camouflage. One of the stations they had set up with rulers, string, and magnets, like a fishing station. So they had a fishing competition, and all 3 classes went over, and it was really, really well done. Credit to Mrs. Dorman and the students in that class. Those are the types of things that we want students to be exposed to. And it was great. I talked to one of the second grade teachers, and they're like, we've learned about some of this, but we didn't learn about this aspect. And now I'm thinking about how I incorporate that in next year when we cover these things. So really just great experience in general. So appreciate the students in that class, the second grade group, and Mrs. Dorman for offering that invitation. There is a racquetball tournament tomorrow at the junior senior high school. I guess teams have already signed up, but it is at 5:30 tomorrow. They are raising funds to put toward the weight room that's been being worked on at the high school. Provide an update. We've had some ups and downs over the past couple of years with our band, but we have a small group who is planning to play at the Granby Memorial Day Parade and some pieces at graduation. So we have a retired music teacher, band director who's been coming in for short periods, but has been doing some good work. We had a graduate last year step up and conducted at the Arts Night a couple weeks. So again, just one of those things where a community effort to kind of pull together and provide something where we weren't sure what we might be able to do. Underclassmen and junior high award ceremonies are scheduled for June 5th. So parents and families should be hearing about that from the junior senior high school. The 6th grade step up here at East Meadow is scheduled for June 8th. I know there is an invitation that was voted on and approved today, so that will be going out in the next couple of days. And then senior events, we're in full swing. Senior events kicked off with the senior trip to Martha's Vineyard this past Sunday to Monday. They have a visit to East Meadow next Friday. That's something that we introduced last year for the first time, where the seniors come in their caps and gown and do a parade through the building, and the students at the elementary school made signs and lined the hallways. Just a good way both for the younger students to see the graduates, but the number of connections that our graduates have to staff and faculty who are still here at East Meadow, that was an important connection to be made too. So we're doing that again this year, senior luncheon, senior awards night, and then culminating with graduation on Saturday, June 10th. So looking forward to all of that. And that is all I have for tonight.
2 quick questions.
Sure.
As far as Charter Day, for the committee, if anyone's interested, are we signing up through the PTO that sent out their,
You can just go right through the update. You guys should be able to edit right in there. If you can't, you can just shoot me an email at the time that you're looking.
okay. And then just a quick reminder that on Friday it is field day at East Meadow for grades 3 through 6.
Field Day, East Meadow, 3 through
This
6
Friday.
this Friday. Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
it is.
yes it is.
It's happening. So,
Only
sorry,
a few
grade
thi-
3 through 6.
Only a few things going
Field
on.
Day this Friday. And there's no school Monday.
Woo-hoo, there you go. Here we go.
Thank you for that reminder.
Finance and operations.
2 things for you today. I got the kitchen RFP. It'll be going out on combis on Monday the 29th. I posted it so it'll go out on the central register, and in the Sentinel. So I linked I put in the folder the document that I put in through Combis.
Awesome.
So the proposals are due June 20th at 1 o'clock. They'll be open to Town Hall or to the annex, wherever we're calling it. So they'll be open there to take under advisement.
Excellent. It's nice to see that that is moving forward.
And then my other piece is we are in full swing in phase 1 of the mounted projector project in the high school. Several classrooms were completed today. They've been coming in the evenings, so to not disrupt classes, but mostly on Tuesdays. So there are mounted, not quite the same what we have in here, but very similar, projected onto whiteboards, and we're again being able to retrofit those so that we're not stretching 20-foot cables across classrooms and having them on carts. So phase 1 is well under the way, and the capital article was approved at town meeting for phase 2, which will be completed over the summer.
One question that I have is for our next meeting, if you could get us an update for the revolving food account, the Chartwell's numbers, just where we're at. I haven't seen that in a little bit. We were running in the green. I'd like to see where we are, if we still are or not.
We're in the green.
We're in the green, that's good. Nice to see. Any other questions for either Mr. Sullivan or Mr. Dorman?
I saw a picture, but just a quick question for either of you, how the ribbon cutting ceremony went at the basketball court. Just another big thank you to our anonymous donor for their very generous gift.
It was great.
It was fun.
Yeah, it was, Jen had the sharpest pair of scissors.
Those,
Ever
it was
seen.
like cutting through butter with a hot knife. They were crazy.
But no, it was good. We unfortunately we did invite some press, but we didn't have any in attendance, and but we did send out a press release this week with a write-up and some photos. So hopefully that gets picked up. But
Awesome.
yeah.
I've seen lots of kids using it, so that's
yeah, it's
so
been
good
getting
to see.
it has been getting a lot of use already. So we're excited about that.
Awesome.
Jill, CES?
We meet next Wednesday.
Awesome. All right, so we had adjourned to work groups, but the only work group that we had posted was the policy subcommittee. And I was thinking that was probably because you were gonna have your meeting during the week. 'Cause
Yeah.
I didn't remember having discussion for that one. It should be at our meeting next time. So we can talk about which meetings we would, who we would like to have for our next meeting for work groups. Policy is probably good for now.
I think it's good, like, those were the only few small areas for potential change, and
Our next meeting is after town meeting,
The
so,
day after,
The
yep.
day after.
we should plan to have budget and finance then, depending upon what the outcome of that would be. And you wanna do, community relations?
I would like to, yes.
And, do we need to do goals and evaluation, or are we good for right now?
other than to check in where we're at with, we had set kind of our goals.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know that we need to meet to talk about that, like they've.
I won't be here.
Oh, you won't be
Anyway.
here, okay. So we'll do those two, budget and community relations then for
Mhm.
next time. Anything else for next time? We'll revisit, dates for the year, for the committee. And,
And we'll vote field trip policies.
Yep.
Yep.
Field trip policies, enrollment dashboard will be on there. I'll follow up on some of the questions around the Corey and food service.
okay. right, that's it. Thanks, everybody.